so excited talking about the way we should be teaching. Some of you probably are, but it is so exciting to open up the minds of children and help them in their thinking process. Children have questions like, in my preschool class, we have a shed that houses all the equipment for outside. So that shed, the children thought, moved. Every day it moved because the shadow moved. So why? Why did our shed move? That became a whole big project on shadows. And how could we find out if the shed moved? What could we do? We came up with the idea that, well, we're going to put chalk all around the shed, the outline of the shed. And then we're going to see if it really moved when we came out at noontime. We found the shed was there, but the shadow had moved. So now the children, they needed to test it over and over again. But they finally got it in their minds that the shed stayed in the same place. But something was moving in the shadow. So we worked on that for a couple of months. The children asked lots of questions, and the job of the teacher is to guide them into asking those questions and where can they find their answers. Another question, the children come in the morning and they wore their rain boots and they splashed in the puddles. They went home and they were gone. Where did they go? That's a question so many 3- and 4-year-olds ask. How can you help them to find the answers to those kind of questions? How can you help them to find the answer to why I brought a leaf in, she brought a leaf in from her yard, and they're different. I thought leaves were leaves. They're different colors, they're different shapes. And then, lo and behold, the leaves fall all off the trees, and they're still green trees. Why? Those are questions that started another whole project on, are the leaves in your yard the same as the leaves in my yard? Are they the same down the street? And in that whole process, has anyone here ever found ginkgo and found the fruits? Don't they smell terrible? That's what we found. Those ginkgo fruits, we brought them all home and they smell terrible. Why do we have, what happened to our pumpkin? It has black spots on it. Why? These are all kinds of questions that young children ask. And we, as teachers, can help to give them the tools to ask the right questions, find answers to their problems, and come up with solutions. Sometimes I think we concentrate a lot because I know the standards are ELA and math. We concentrate so much on that, but I like what Scott said today because I really like to think of all of those subjects working to help us to learn about our world. What's the sense of learning to read if all you do is know how to read and decode? What's the sense of learning how to count and sort? You know how to count and sort, but for what reason? So I like to have the children in my classes have some questions, and then we need to learn how to read. We need to find the right resources in order to answer those. So today I hope for the next few minutes we're going to think about some ways that you could perhaps incorporate in your classroom to help children to think. And that's why I call it the Toolbox of Thinking Skills. Have you all seen this book? Yes. The Most Magnificent Thing. Is there anyone who hasn't read it? Oh, well, it's also like the book of What Do You Do With an Idea? This is a great book because it helps children to notice that they can start something, they can have an idea, and they can keep trying and trying. And it's such a great book. I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but it is such a wonderful, wonderful book. She wants to make a most magnificent thing. And all she does is get junk, really. She goes around and finds lots of junk. But before she does that, She makes a plan. Isn't that what engineers do? They make a plan. And then she starts to gather junk. But it doesn't work out exactly how she wants it to work out. So she has to go back and try different things. And of course, sometimes scientists do get kind of mad because things don't work out how they want them to work out, but they keep trying. And finally, in the end, after lots of discouragement, she comes up with her most magnificent thing, a scooter made of all the junk. This is a great book, and there's other kinds of books about what do you do with an idea are great for getting children set up to think about what they could solve for problems. So many times when I look at my student teachers teaching science and I come to observe a lesson, they seem to use the same tool. Now, if you used hammers to try to put a screw in the wall, anyone here not handyman? You all know the difference between nails and screws. But if you try to put a screw into the wall with a hammer, you are not going to have luck at all. Now, as a new bride, I did not know that. So I've had really bad walls trying to hammer a screw into the wall. But once you know that there are other tools, and each tool has a purpose, and it helps you, that is the same thing it is with thinking skills. Thinking skills can be used for different purposes, but most of the time, the thinking skills that we have in our classes are the remembering and memorizing. Does it do you any good in preschool to take a paper chart of a plant and label it? You need to have that content. What are you going to do with it? And so you finished your plant unit and you put it in a book, and that's it. And you've never actually taken a plant out of the soil and actually looked at the roots, but you know how to write R-O-O-T-S, and you know where it's supposed to be. So these are the tools that I call the lower order thinking skills. You do need to memorize some things. I mean, you have to memorize your address, or you're not going to know how to tell anyone if you're 4 where you live. You need to be able to recall, and a lot of my student teachers will have as one of their objectives, children will be able to recall something. That means they're just going to spit it back out to you. They will identify the parts of the plant. Fine, they can name those things. They can quantify, they can count. Great, they can count. Children need those skills, and that's what you do in a lot of your classes. You do teach them how to do all of these different skills. But many classes stop right there. That's what I think is important. So if you are helping children to make connections, that's using their information. You're helping children to sort and categorize. They're noticing more details. You're helping them to find patterns, to calculate, and to deduce things. You know, in Lily's purse, you probably, if you're an early childhood teacher or in early childhood education, you've heard of Lily's purple purse. Cause and effect. Lily brings the purse and doesn't keep it quiet. What happens? Gets taken away. She writes a nasty note to her teacher. What happens? Cause and effect. All of those things children can understand. One of the things I like to do in my class is called the Magic Loft. So I have a Magic Loft here. And I guess I'm just going to kind of use these tables up here who can see, all right? This is a game here. What are some of the attributes that you could say from these? What's one attribute these have? So there's color. So the children definitely could notice that attribute. There are different colors. There's other attributes. Size, shape, and shape. So there's 3 attributes actually. But if you think about it, and really look at them, there's also something else on some of them. There is a design. So what I do is I have the children look at everything. We start out with maybe 5 or 6 things. This is helping children to think. Let's see, I had 3 of these, 3 of these. Now something is missing. So let's have this table, all right? I want you to look at all these. And can you tell me something about these? What would you say the attributes of this? Yellow and square. This is also yellow and square. How are we going to differentiate between these two? Big and little, and how else? Whole and non-whole. So now we've got 4 different attributes. These are only 3 and 4-year-olds, and they're able to do that. So we have small, large, without a hole, and with a hole, okay? You could also say how many little circles are on the top of them. So I have some rectangles, and I have the squares. You could also say these are 2 what? Rectangles. But what is different about them? One has a picture, one doesn't. What else is different? Size. All right, so now you're going to have to concentrate down here. Well, I take a good look at them. It's amazing when you do this with 3 and 4-year-olds because they actually think something disappears. Okay, that's why I call it a magic loft, because they think I actually can do magic. Okay, you ready? What's missing? Now you have to give me at least 2 attributes. So it's a blue, that's the color. And what shape? A rectangle. Well, wait a minute, I have a blue rectangle right here. I didn't take it. So blue rectangle as a design. Ta-da! You're right. Good job, Now, when you get all of these tools, there are tools that you can use for transforming or creating something. You evaluate what you have, you infer, you imagine, you reframe, and you generate something new. So if you were going to infer, little children can do this. There's a story. A cat's up in a tree. There's a fire engine coming. What are you inferring? What's the inference there? What is the child going to decide? Going to get the cat. And especially if it has a ladder, it's going to get it. So, children need these tools because they have to make decisions. They have to solve problems, and they have to plan strategies. So what do 3 and 4-year-olds have to solve? The snack basket problem. This was a big problem in our class. The snack basket is outside the classroom. And I don't know about you all, but when my children bring snack now, they're in huge insulated bags. It used to be a little plastic bag, and I know that's not environmentally safe anymore. It used to be a paper bag. Now it's a big insulated container with an ice pack. So with 20 children, this big basket was not really big enough, and it was getting very heavy. The snack helper is responsible for bringing the snack basket into the classroom. Just the snack helper, okay? The snack basket is too heavy for one person to carry in. We struggled with this. So then, what can we do? How do you think they solved the problem? You could get another person, but nope, that's not allowed. But they did come up with that. Drag it. Make 2 trips, drag it. Push it on there. It's really heavy. What'd you say? Eat some on the way in. You have it. They went through lots of different ways. They pulled it, they pushed it. Now we're learning all about physics, push and pull. We also were learning about friction, because to push it was hard because there were different surfaces that the basket had to go over. Some surfaces it slid, but then you got to the rug and it didn't slide. So then we tried putting it on a wagon. But gee, the wagon was too big and it was hard to maneuver the wagon. But they found that the wheels really worked well. So what could we put this on that was smaller? You got it. That's exactly what the children thought of. Velcroed the basket to a scooter board. And now, no matter whether it was on the tiles or on the rugs, one child could now take care of the snack baskets. Easy. So, we have to figure out how do we help children get these tools and refine them. So here's something that I saw on television. I have lots of grandchildren. And this was on a Disney program that's supposed to teach children educational things. So here is the problem that was presented. Minnie Mouse is shipping her bow to a friend. Which box should she use? Which is the correct answer? The middle one. Why? The bow won't get crushed. Anyone have a different answer?
Top one, the middle one, because you're only looking at the perspective of the front.
Oh, he's thinking of something different now. We don't know, because this is a 2D. We don't know whether this is the top or a side view. We don't have the 3D dimensions. But the program says there's only one answer. So what if you're the child that comes from a very frugal family? This is a variable. You can talk to children about variables. The bigger the package, the more it costs to send. Now if you put that variable in, which package are you going to use? But you also have to know whether that bow is flexible. Maybe it's a china bow and you can't bend it. There are so many different variables to this that there is not one answer. And that's the whole point of asking children to think. There are more than one answers to so many problems. But this is how we get boxed in with little worksheets. There's one answer, and children don't have, if they give what is the wrong answer, they don't have an opportunity to share why they said what they said. So if you did have that child coming from a very frugal background, and they chose the top box, they need to be able to explain it to you. So these are some kind of questions that you're going to help. I like to ask questions of children that help them to do certain kinds of thinking. They need to organize their knowledge. And I'll show you some ways that you can help children organize Helping children to focus their attention. What is it you really want them to see? How can they see how things are related? Sometimes you want them to take action and try something. And then sometimes you want them to form conclusions. So if you want children to help organize things, these are the kinds of questions. They're really lower level thinking questions. But you ask these, I bet, a lot of times. Well, how many do you see there? How often does this happen? How long is something? And how much? How much does it weigh? Those are some kinds of questions that you're going to help them to organize. So you do need to have math. You do need to be able to count, and you do need to be able to measure things. If you want children to focus their attention, you would want them to use all of their senses. I always like to use I do use a sheet for this, or you can use a whiteboard that has a picture of an eye, ear, nose, hands, and mouth. What are your eyes telling you about this? What are you noticing? What does it feel like? Does it feel different on your cheek? Does it feel different here? What about on your foot? Does it feel different? This is where you give children all that sensory vocabulary that they also need. Because most children will say good or bad, hot or cold. But you can give them more descriptive words. Fuzzy, prickly, sharp. What are these people doing? What are the birds doing? What are the leaves doing? Does it make a sound? Does it have a smell? Well, we found those ginkgo pods. Oh my heavens, they definitely had a smell. The fruit from the ginkgo tree smelled a lot different than the fruit from the apple tree. So that was one way we could compare it. And have you seen this before? Because maybe this is going to access their prior knowledge. Oh, I've seen something like this before. These are ways that you can help children to really focus. So I'm sure if you're in early childhood, October was pumpkins. You probably had pumpkins out different places. Children do need to be able to feel it. They do need to be able to smell it, to look at it. The girl on the right is really looking at her pumpkin, and she is documenting what she sees by painting it. Some children document by writing. Some children document by taking a picture. She's documenting by painting it. She's looking very carefully at it because she sees that it has ridges, and she's trying to get the ridges. She's noticing the shape of it. A 3-year-old just might be able to do the shape. They might not get the rest of it. You can help them to notice that there's something else. This one in the middle at the bottom is really getting feeling. They're getting that up, right up to their elbows. They are feeling it, smelling it, and seeing what a pumpkin really looks like. And I told you they also found that some of them had some black spots. They wanted to know why, what was happening to them. So we put them outside and we left them out there for 6-7 months. You can also have questions that are going to help children to compare, find relationships. How do things fit together? How are they alike? How are they different? How many ways are they alike and different? So some of you have markers on your tables. I have some extra ones for the back tables. If someone from 3 back tables does not have a tray, wants to come up and get something here, if you don't have one of these trays, someone from the back from each table. I only have 3 more. So what I want you to do is to take the pen that you're writing with. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this. You all have pens at your tables. And I want you as a group at your table to figure out what is the same about these and a marker and what is different. So I'm going to give you 1 minute. Write them down, likenesses and differences. Oh, don't ever assume, but see, you want to be open up. Children are going to open these things up. I give this, children love this exercise to compare two things. Okay, over here, a difference.
The marker has a thicker tip than a pen.
Thicker tip over here. Difference.
One's a little bit heavier, one's a little bit lighter.
One's heavier, one's lighter, so there's a difference in weight. You can give me whichever you'd like.
Well, we said like one has metal on it versus one does not.
Oh, one has metal. What's the other one?
Plastic.
Plastic. But do both of them have plastic? Is that something they have in common?
Yes.
They both have plastic on them. This is something you can do with your children. Give them anything and have them think of all the things that are the same, different. Use a Venn diagram with them. It's a great time to introduce a Venn diagram to 3- and 4-year-olds. You know, compare something that they really enjoy, their dog and themselves. How are they different? How are they the same? Now, questions also can lead to children taking action. So, what happens if we do this? What would happen if you, can you find a way to, and can you figure out how to? So here's something that the children in my class, there were a lot of leaves and we have gardens. What would happen if we buried the leaves instead of raking them up? It took a long time to find out what happened, but when we dug it up in the spring, they were really surprised. They weren't there anymore. What happened to them? Well, children had to figure that out. What happened to those leaves? What happens when you plant something? What happens when you put the seed in the ground? These are some things that children love to find answers to. You know, how high can you make that tower? If you're in early childhood, and I know kindergartens don't have blocks, many of them anymore. Anyone here a kindergarten teacher?
I was last year.
Do you have blocks?
Yeah.
Oh, give yourselves a clap because, oh, I went into a kindergarten class, and she said, you won't believe, she says, but we are getting a new social emotional learning curriculum for next year. She said, but if they only let me have blocks, they would not have to pay for that social emotional learning curriculum. And I've seen it in kindergarten classes. I went into one in Peabody. I don't know if anyone's here from Peabody, but I went into a kindergarten class in Peabody, and one of the centers, there was an ELA center, there was a math center, the children could rotate. There was also a block center. And what I saw going on in the block center was a lot more learning that was going on in filling in the correct beginning sound. Children were planning, someone was taking charge, someone was directing it, someone was gathering. How many of these do we need? Math was happening, speaking and listening was happening. It was amazing to me what blocks can do. So sometimes if you have children building with blocks, ask those kind of questions. What would happen if you put something over here? I wonder if you could make it a little bit taller. And what would happen if you changed the kind of blocks? Would that have a difference? What if you used Legos? Do you think you could build it taller with Legos? Why? Ask the questions. Why? What about Kiva planks? What about foam blocks? A plant. How can you find out what this plant needs to grow? You know, you have plants in your classroom. We want it to grow. How do we find out? Some children might say, well, I know it needs sun. Well, how do you know it needs sun? Ask those kind of questions. Sometimes you can ask questions that will help children reason. Take the data that they've collected, evaluate it, and form conclusions. ask them to explain their thinking. Even though their reasoning might not be your reasoning, they are getting practice in thinking how to solve a problem and giving a reason for it. But a word of caution. Sometimes as teachers we ask way too many questions and we forget to stop and listen and see what's going on. I always like to first see what children are doing before I barge right in and ask the question. Because sometimes by observing them and listening to their conversation, they're going in a completely different direction than you think they're going. And then make their thinking visible. I like to have documentation panels. If this were my classroom, we would start down there and we'd put what we did first about a problem. Then we'd put second. When we were solving our problem for our lunch basket, we had, this is our problem, this is what we thought about it. We had lots of photographs, lots of writings, children's drawings. This is a hard one to see up here, but these are two boys who made a perfectly symmetrical design together. This, and it balanced. Absolutely perfect. And I think that Scott said this in the opening remarks. Education is not the learning of facts. And it's up to us as teachers to make sure we train their minds to think. So I wanted us to do a few thinking routines that you could do in your classroom. So here's one. What do you think about it? What puzzles you? What do you want to explore? A think, pair, share. 4-year-olds can do that. Circle of viewpoints. You know, I wish we could teach everyone this, and I especially wish we could teach our politicians to look at things from a different viewpoint. So if we can teach 4 through 8-year-olds to look at things at a different viewpoint, wouldn't that be wonderful when they grew up? I used to think about something. Now I think this. And see, what do I see? What do I think? What do I wonder? So here's an example. What's happening here? What do you see happening here? What's happening? There's a crack and there's a weed growing. I wonder which came first, the weed or the crack? What do you think? What do you think? She thinks the weed came and then the crack was the result.
Not a result.
So you think the crack was first?
I think the weed was under it.
Oh, the weed was under it.
When it cracked, it came first.
Why did it crack, I wonder? Earth moving. Child might say that. The one over here is harder to see, but this one, it's actually pushing right up through the pavement. So this is something. Have you ever seen it before? Anyone here ever seen weeds growing through the pavement? If you have a driveway, you probably see it all the time. Where have you seen it? So you want to ask those questions. And what else do you want to find out about it? Because I want to know, are plants really strong enough that they could crack the sidewalk? How could we find out? That might be a question. So we're going to practice with some of the tools. I'm going to do float the boat last. We're going to do the marble one. Let me just move over. Okay. So here's the deal, and you got to figure this out. And I know you can do it quickly, but children would have real marbles. Okay? We're going to play a game. And everyone needs a big marble, and then you need 6 smaller marbles of the same color. So what color choices do you have? Oh, it does come out different there. Why can't you have red? There's not enough for green and red?
But wait a minute. But I said, first of all, you had to have a big one. Isn't there a big red one? Why can't red's my favorite color. Oh, and how many do I have to have? So, therefore, I don't have enough. These are things you can very easily do with your children. Play games with them, have them sort things. Now, children are going to take these and they're going to move them all around because they're going to need to manipulate things. All right, so here's another one. Circle point of view. So if you don't have 5 people at your table, if you have more than 5, I want everyone at the table to take one of these points of view. And I'm going to give you just a minute to talk about. I want you to think first, and then I want you to share. What does the leaf think of a tree? Now, when we were doing tree unit, this was great for children to think about. What does the leaf think of the tree? What is a woodpecker? What is a tree to the woodpecker? So everyone take one of these. Leaf, spider, woodpecker, bark on the tree, or squirrel. Take one of those, and I'll give you a minute to think, and then you can share. All right, so do your thinking first. You all think first, and then you can share. Because you want to give everyone a chance to think. Because even the smart ones need time to think. They'll come up with better answers.
Exactly. Even Jen needs time.
Make sure you give everyone time to think before you share, because you know even the smart ones here, you'll come up with better answers if you think first.
She had a really good answer. You should call her.
So did you all allow time to think before you started to speak? Because this is one thing I always have my student teachers never give anyone time to think. And it's not just the ones who need time to process it. It's also the smart ones. They'll come up with a much better answer. So just don't be rushed to get the answer, okay? When you're ready, everybody share what they think. I just love how everyone does that. Don't you feel powerful in your class when you do that and they all respond? Okay. If you were a leaf, would you stand up, please? If you were a leaf, please stand up. Okay, way back there with the glasses on the head like me in the black. How do you view that tree?
I said, I want to thank the tree for holding on to me, but why you let go of me?
Oh, what a sensitive person. All right, what did you say as a leaf?
I said I had a lot of friends.
Oh, a lot of friends, how great. No, but you see how we're getting to even to know these people in such a short time, the sensitive ones right here, the social emotional learning ones. Okay, so you're a leaf over here?
Me, yes.
Yes.
So I said that you are my home.
Oh, you're my
and
home.
I'm part of you.
Oh.
Two things.
But is a tree your home forever?
No, not forever.
Oh, tree.
Temporary.
The tree
For my
is
life. For my
for
leaf
your leaf life. Oh, so you're a leaf.
I'm part of the tree and I have a job to make food.
She has a job. Now I'm noticing this one here has got some more information about trees. So I could go on with that and we could maybe build off of hers. She's going to help the tree make food. Great. If I didn't get you, that's okay, because thank you very much. Let's have the spider stand up. Who's a spider? Okay, spider back there. What do you think of the tree?
I appreciate the tree for making a safe space where I can build my web and have the babies, my babies.
Oh, a safe home. You know, I think that table must be the social emotional one back there. Okay, back there. So it's another safe space? Okay.
I said that I was a safe space where I can trap mosquitoes.
Oh, so you're using it in a nefarious way to trap. You are all the mothering kinds down there, and you are the one who wants to trap. All right, what about you?
That's what I said. Build a web to trap some bugs.
See, I kind of would have thought you would say that, but to trap some bugs. Okay, thanks. How about the woodpeckers? Now, I've got one that's this big out in front of my house. It's a pileated, red-breasted woodpecker. Okay, woodpecker back there. What do you think of the tree?
I don't really like this tree because it looks very healthy, and I would rather find a tree that's partially dead or starting to decompose. It would have more food for me.
Oh, what do you eat?
I eat insects.
Oh, so this tree doesn't look like it has any for you.
I mean, I'll take it if I need to, but I'd rather.
That's the pragmatic person back there, practical. Okay, over here, what about you, the woodpecker?
I was thinking that this is a place where I can get my dinner.
Oh, a restaurant. Great. Woodpecker.
I said it's a place for a source of food.
Source of food, another restaurant.
I said this is the place where my nest and my babies are.
Nests and babies. You know, sometimes the woodpecker, I just think of it as a drum. I'm a musician, and look at the music I can make. So you can tell, even by the way children answer these. You're the bark now. You're that bark around the tree. Bark, stand up. Someone told me they pointed out someone who had a stupendous answer. Okay, bark. Yes, bark.
I'm strong, but can somebody get these ants and this woodpecker off me?
Oh, you kind of, you know, touchy-feely you don't want. Okay, your bark.
I said, tree, I got your back, I'll protect you.
What'd you say?
I got your back and I'll protect you.
Oh, I've got your back and I'll protect you. That is the nurture. I'm telling you, that table. Okay, over here.
I was similar. I love my tree around.
Oh, you're wrapping. What do you say about the bark?
I have both the protection and the support.
Protection and support.
Nutrients to the leaves come up under the bark.
Under the bark, you're protecting
so I
it.
serve, but it also, when it grows, I grow, so we have a nice symbiotic grip.
Ooh. Now, you see what I told you about this table here?
Oh,
You know, what she had, I mean, I mean, this is the science table. You can tell. You can tell they're using the words and everything. They're really getting into it. Okay, squirrels. What do you think of the tree, squirrels?
I'm hoping that this is an oak tree because if it is, I'll be nice and fat. But if it's not, I'm going to have to really work.
Okay.
So maybe go hungry. But if it's an oak tree, I'm going to be sitting pretty.
You are. You are. Okay, squirrel back there.
I said, oh, I love getting exercise, running up and down the street and across the branches.
You know, you want to, it's like a playground, isn't it? Or an exercise gym. It's like your gym. And what'd you say, squirrel?
I said something similar too. I was like, this is my preschool gym. I like to play and bounce around on this tree.
What'd you say?
It's my playground.
Did anyone have anything different? What did you say?
That would be my home.
Your home. And they do build those nests right up there. Children could do this with anything. Children could do it with trees. They could do it with rocks. What's underneath the rock? What do the bugs think of the rocks? It's a protection for them. What do the worms think of the rocks? You could do this with anything, but what you're doing is you're helping children to see things from another's perspective. And as I say again, if we could only get the politicians to do that, wouldn't that be wonderful? These are some ways that you can make thinking visible. Take a picture. Our children did a long, long project on water. And we took lots of pictures as they discovered what happens when you put holes in bottles at different levels. Children can write in their journal and make pictures. You can have a whole wall that explains what their thinking is. So one thing I'd like you all to do, have you seen this book about white rabbits? Do you know this book? Now, this is a book you would use with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, okay? It's a very quick book. If you haven't read it, I'm going to read it to you quickly because then you're going to do something with all the stuff that's on that tray. You're going to start with just basic remembering, and you're going to keep getting those thinking skills higher and higher and higher until you're creating something. Okay? White Rabbit's color book. One day, White Rabbit found 3 big tubs of paint. Red, yellow, blue. Sunshine yellow, she thought. Lovely. And a quick dip, and yellow rabbit, bright as the sun. Now what about red, thought Rabbit? Oh, what's this? She's orange rabbit. Look, red and yellow together make orange. So now you're going to be remembering this if you're 3 or 4. It's time for a wash, the rabbit thought. Now she's going to do red on its own this time. Splash. Red rabbit, sizzling hot red. How cool the blue looks, thought the rabbit. What's this? Purple rabbit. Look, red and blue together make purple. I'm a very important royal purple rabbit. Princess Purple Rabbit to the shower. Blue will do, though, thought the rabbit. Blue rabbit, icy cold blue. How warm yellow looks, thought the rabbit. What's this? Green rabbit. Look, blue and yellow together make green. Oh dear, there's no more water. All that's left is a little bit of red paint. What would happen, thought the rabbit. Now, if you're 3 or 4, you might have done this at the easel. Because 3 or 4 or 5-year-olds at the easel, what do many of their pictures look like? Brown. Hooray! So some of them might have figured it out. Brown rabbit, lovely warm brown. Blue, yellow, and red together make brown, and brown's just right for me. So now I would ask the children to remember those color combinations. So since this is a big room and we don't have a sink in it, I'm just going to show you a picture of what I would do for remembering. These are the things that we're going to do. Remember the colors. You would use colors that are in front of you. Don't use them yet. And I usually do this with watercolors. And I'll show you just ice cube trays with lots of water in it, 3 primary colors, and medicine droppers. Children can get all the different shades of the colors, but I can see if they remembered what colors make what colors. Understanding, you are going to be using the chalk or the markers or the crayons to make secondary colors. Then you're going to apply by using the 3 colors to paint a picture. And there are certain parameters of what you have to have for this picture. Then you're going to choose a secondary color sample, and you're going to make a color that matches that. And then you're going to create a brand new color, but you have to write a formula so someone else can make it the same color. And then you can name it. So for the first one, for remembering, they would just use the colors that I gave them, and they would make new colors. So now, not all of you, because they told me there would be about 50 people here. I'm not sure how many there are, but there are some other places up here if you want to do this. Because I'm going to ask you to use the chalk or markers or crayons that are on the trays. Don't touch the paint or the model magic yet. And I want you to make secondary colors. I want you to make green, orange, and purple. So take some paper, take some chalk, markers, and I'd like you to make it. And you have that. There's a tray of paint. If you would just go get it for your table and take a handful of Q-tips. There is a tray of paint up front with some Q-tips. If someone would just go get it for your table. There's a tray of paint, a little with paint and some paper and some Q-tips. Someone from your table just go up and get it. Yes, I do. Nope.
So,
where do you want to do it?
right about.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
How are we doing?
I'm doing just great.
So let me. So you can just look
Okay.
at. I'm rolling now.
Where do you want me to look?
Look at Barry.
I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
First, flip your card around and say your name for me, so we can make sure we get.
Okay. Geraldine White.
And can you tell us where you teach and what grades you teach?
Sure, I teach at Gordon College. I teach in the early childhood department. So I teach teachers, and I also teach in the graduate department, methods and practices. But I taught preschool for probably 30-something years.
Oh, cool. And can you tell us a little bit about the session that you presented on today? What's it called, and what are you hoping people get out of it?
It's opening up a toolbox of thinking skills for children, because I hope that educators will just think of asking more questions, knowing the kinds of questions to ask, and not just thinking there's only one answer. And I think if you train children in how to use these thinking skills, you will prep them for later years also. They can solve their own problems, which is what 3- and 4-year-olds can do.
So is there anything specific that you hope the people in this session will get out of it?
Well, I do hope they'll come away with their own toolbox of specific things that they could take back, specific routines, thinking routines, activities that they could take back and try in their classroom tomorrow. So this one we're doing is a higher order thinking skills right now. So we're taking that remembering, understanding, applying, and how would it look like to do those Bloom's taxonomy in a 3, 4, and 5-year-old class.
Great.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, just how exciting is it to be a part of this type of thinking toward learning?
Look over there at you. Well, I like to share because I find, I guess I'm a little discouraged sometimes when I go into classrooms and see early childhood teachers with worksheets and not hands-on and not letting children explore things. And to me, that's how children learn. I get excited because I always learn something new when children do a project. And so that excites me to want to get other teachers thinking that way also.
And how long have you been involved with KnowAtom?
I think Gordon College has been doing it for maybe 5 years because in our methods class for science, we use the KnowAtom curriculum.
What do you think are the biggest challenges for people that are new to KnowAtom?
I think the Socratic dialogue for young children. I think knowing how to answer questions and how to follow up on those questions and not just accept a one-word answer. I think that's hard.